said, you have to be as old as I am to know how young you are. And I didn't get it at the time. I was like, okay, I'm gonna keep that. I was listening. But when I got to 43, I was like, okay, I get it now. I get it. A lot of things happen between 22 and 43. When you find out that everything that you thought you knew, maybe you didn't know it as well as you thought. But then again, though, I think that confidence is important to kind of listen to your instincts and think things through. And then sometimes you make decisions that are a little bit different from what other people tell you to do. And I think that's valuable too. I made a lot of choices early in my life in terms of investments in time and energy. I made a lot of choices early in my life that a lot of people didn't understand. A lot of people didn't agree with it. Remember in the 90s, it wasn't as easy to be as pro-black as it is now, especially when you talk about economics. When nobody in the 90s really talking about black economics like that. So I had to kind of just choose my path and decide and come to my own conclusions about things. I couldn't lean on other people telling me, what was appropriate, what was what, and whatever. Because I mean, I tell you, when I was at University of Kentucky, I used to write these newspaper articles, and I didn't even know I was a good writer. I just started, I got invited to write something, and I wrote it, and everybody loved it, and I have no idea why. I still don't know why. I had no idea why people like my writing so much, and eventually I started writing, for a lot of people, but I remember when I would write stuff would just come out of me. I was kind of a young, frustrated black man where I just sort of didn't understand why certain things were so unfair. I didn't like racism. I didn't like inequality. I didn't like injustice. It used to piss me off, and I would say, well, this doesn't make sense. And again, maybe because also my background is mathematics, it's logic. 2 plus 2 has to always equal 4, even if massa says that it doesn't. Right. Even when Master says, no, 2 plus 2 is 187, boy. You gotta do math correctly, boy. And you got a bunch of black folks walking around. We don't know what the real math is. And, the math ain't mathing, but we had to try to make it math. We fit the square peg into the round hole, and we're walking around repeating it because we learned it in public school. Well, 2 plus 2, everybody knows 2 plus 2 is 187. And then all of a sudden comes along some person, some black person who's not scared, who just says, no, actually 2 plus 2 is 4. It's not 187. Like, no, no, no. And then everybody gets mad. Like, no, everybody knows 2 plus 2 is 187. What's wrong with you, you coon, you stupid Negro? And so that becomes the experience. And I remember when I used to so when I get a lot of pushback now, I really felt like even back then God was preparing me for now. Even then, believe it or not, even at 27, I told them, I said, this is just the beginning. One day I'm going to do this on a national level. I believe this is going to happen, and it prepared me. It prepared me to deal with hate and attacks and people not liking what you have to say. And if you have truth on your side, then you can just stick with it. You don't have to be scared. Whatever. Eventually they'll figure it out. Maybe if they don't, their kids will. And it kind of became sort of the foundation of the weirdo that you're talking to right now. And I remember having black people very, very helpful. I mean, people that really loved me coming to me and warning me, almost like slaves warning other slaves, like master gonna beat you if you keep acting like that. And they would warn me. They would say, if you keep talking like this, it's gonna ruin your career. If you keep writing these radical articles about racism, you're not gonna get a good job. I don't know if y'all have the same people around you, but that's kind of like just sort of like this bug-eyed fear, like Lord Jesus, if you keeps on talking, boy, bad things is gonna happen. And so anyway, but I said, I think it'll be all right. I think I'm a good person. I'm a hardworking person. I ain't scared. And the white man, he can survive and be independent financially and all these other things. Maybe I can too. And I just stuck to what I was doing and had faith, and it worked out, right? So I think that one of the things one of the biggest things I learned is about life is a lot like investing. I always tell you all that when you invest, you should not invest and make moves out of fear. If you make decisions out of fear or out of greed, then you're gonna typically make the wrong choice. So I was like, nah, you ain't gonna scare me. I'm not gonna do the wrong thing because everyone else is doing it or because it's more comfortable for other people. I had to kind of stick with it. And the thing about life that's interesting is that life is like this big spiritual bathtub that you're immersed in. It's your life. Like you have to live it every day. You got to look at it every day. And there are so many people though who will give you bad advice about your life. They'll give you bad investing advice. Meaning not financial investing. I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about the things more important than money. I'm talking about where you invest your time, where you invest your love. There are people that always have something to say. Girl, don't you date him, girl? Or man, yeah, you got to make sure you marry her because get married. You should marry her. And one thing that's interesting to me about that is, it's one of these things where you can let other people give you their take on your life if you want to. Like you can let other people tell you how to live your life if you want. But the unfortunate reality is that it's a highly asymmetric process in terms of who has the consequences of that choice. Like if I sit here and I say to you, and this is actually me speaking somewhat against myself with you guys because I want to warn you about this. Um, you know, Look, if I let's say I sit here and I say, everybody needs to go quit their job right now. You need to go, to hell with this. You shouldn't be working for the man. You should go quit your job and go and start a business right now. Well, that could be good advice. That could be good information. I've met a lot of people. I met several people at InvestFest who told me that they started their business because of something I said, and I was flattered to hear that. But the reason I want to warn you against that and to make sure you think it through is because let's say that I say to you, "Hey, I think black people should all have their own business, and we shouldn't be working for these people," and you go quit your job, and it doesn't work out. I'm not, people like me, we're not in your house having to pay your bills. We're not dealing with the consequences of that choice. Now, so while I'm flattered that I can be an advisor in your life, I can give a perspective that can help and benefit you. You need to make the executive decision. You need to always be the executive, the CEO of your own life, the CEO of your family. You're the leader. You're the leader. I'm one of many advisors. Right. So you hear from me, you hear from other people, you take in all the information. That's what good leaders do. Good leaders don't let other people make the decisions for them. Good leaders will go, but good leaders don't make decisions in a vacuum either. So don't make the decision in a vacuum because the benefit, and this is what I told the young guy that I was on the phone with. I told y'all when I do my stream of consciousness with money in the morning, I'm always thinking about whatever it was I was just doing, and because it always sparks new thoughts. And I was talking to this kid, and I said, one thing I think is really smart is that you take advice from elders, from people that have been around longer than you, and that gives you a huge advantage over other 24-year-olds because I know so many people who are similar to a lot of us how a lot of us were when we were young. They're so determined to do everything on their own and in their own way that they don't even seek out advice. And that's just so wasteful because it's crazy to me that you would literally make these really important decisions where the information's everywhere. There's books been written about it. There's older people who made the same damn decision 20 years ago. All these people that you can talk to that can give you a perspective to help you reconsider and make sure you're making the right choice. Like, okay, should I marry this person? Some people make the big investment of things like marriage based on silly stuff. Oh, girl, he's a doctor, or oh, I'm so happy I'm getting married. I remember I had a friend. I kid you not. This is how crazy. Like the again, think of marriage as an investment. Just so you know, this is an investing conversation. I just talk about wealth and investing in a lot of different ways because you've been investing your whole life. You just may not have done it with money. And so I remember this is a true story. I had a friend who would call me and by the way, this is why some guys call me a simp. It's like I've never had a problem being in the friend zone with women. I've had female friends my whole life and I have no problem with it. Sometimes I would voluntarily want to be in the friend zone because I never thought you're supposed to have sex with every woman that you meet. That part I just never got. Like why would I go just sleep with every pretty girl that runs across my path? That's not even logical. That'll kill you. They got diseases and stuff and whatever. And so whatever. So I actually enjoyed the friend zone. And let me tell you why. Because number one, studies show this. Women are really good with conversation. Women are good with processing emotions, much more so than men. And it's from what I read in the book, it's because women have different chemicals that influence how they think. Like oxytocin's a big one. Oxytocin is the bonding chemical. That's what brings people together. So when women talk, sometimes when women just talk, and men are like, oh, a lot of times it's because the talking generates the oxytocin and it makes you feel connected and whatever, right? So you just if you just listen to someone, sometimes they'll just feel connected to you just because they were able to get it all out. So anyway, and I got that from my mother. I used to spend a lot of time with my mother when I was little, and my mother would talk, and I would talk back, and she would talk to me, and I talked back, and I enjoyed that. Actually think good conversation is fun. You don't have to sleep with her to enjoy the experience. You could just have a good, really good talk. So anyway, so as a result, I would have these friends that would just call me and they'd just be talking to me, telling me stuff. And so this lady, she would call me. She was an old friend of mine, and she would tell me every time we would talk, she would always have a lot of crazy things to say about her boyfriend, right? He's doing this, and I think he's doing this, and he's doing that, and blah 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 blah. And she sounded miserable, just absolutely miserable. And I was like, wow, that sounds bad, whatever. And then, like, after 5 or 6 conversations of her telling me how terrible this boyfriend of her was, she calls me one day and she said, so what are you doing? I said, oh, nothing. I'm about to go to class. I said, what are you doing? She said, looking at my new engagement ring. And she says it like I'm supposed to scream. Like, and I was like, okay, I'm not one of your girlfriends. I know I listen and I'm good to talk to, but I'm not a girlfriend. I don't scream when people get engaged. My first thought, again, as a mathematician, was like, why? Like what? Like, wait, did you meet a new boyfriend in the last 48 hours and y'all fell in love and y'all gonna get married? Because the man you've been telling me about in these last 10 conversations, that don't sound like somebody that you should invest your life with. That did not sound like a good situation. Not that he was a bad guy. I'm sure he has his side of the story. There's always two sides. People always forget that. But still, so I was like, hmm, how do I handle this? So this is where I start having internal dialogue. I have the so you have the best conversations inside your own head. You ever do that where you have good conversations with yourself? And so I was like, okay, boys, what do we do now? She's your friend. Do you engage in the ridiculous act of warning her? Like, I don't think this is a good idea, and here's why. Which in turn can cause like a tremendous backlash. Like if somebody's emotional and passionate about doing something, even if it's something stupid, and you stand in the way, it's like you got this tsunami of emotion that's gonna run you down. They're gonna get mad at you. Like, what I'm talking about? Like you ever see a situation like, tell me if you've ever gone through this, like where you have a friend and let's say their partner is cheating and you know it and you want to tell them, why would you not tell them? Why would you not tell them? I personally wouldn't. Because why? Because they're gonna get mad at you. They're gonna reconcile with it. She's gonna reconcile with her boyfriend, and then next thing you know, she gonna hate you, and he's gonna hate you. And I went through that one. This is a separate story. I'm gonna get back to the original story, but this is all about investing. I promise you. So there was I used to sit at the dorms at the University of Kentucky. I used to work at the front desk. So the front desk, I was like the spook that sat by the door. I saw everything. I would see who came in, who didn't, or like when I worked in the basketball players dorm, I would see a girl check in to see a guy at 8 o'clock, and then she check out at 8:30, and then another girl would check in at 9 o'clock, and she check out at 10, and then another girl would check in at 11. I'd be thinking, "Ooh, buddy, if they ever bump into each other, this is gonna be crazy." But I didn't say nothing. That ain't my business. I whatever. But there was one time where there was a guy who would come in and he had this girlfriend. I think she was like 19 or he was 19 and she was like maybe 16 or 17. She wasn't in college yet. And the girlfriend would come see him and and I remember that they would go in their room for an hour or so and then she would come out and she was bleeding. Like blood was dripping like off her face and I was like, "Oh, what the hell's going on up in there?" And then, but again, I'm just doing my homework. I'm trying to get through college. And then she'd go back in the room and then come back out, and there's blood, and there was this trail of blood dripping from her nose, from her face to his room. Like literally a trail. And I was like, what the hell, man? So again, to be honest with you, I'm 19. I don't know what to do with this, right? So maybe I could have done more at that time, but I didn't. So I just didn't say anything. But then one day the police came by because somebody had called the cops somehow, and they were trying to find out what happened. And they were like trying to ask people, and nobody knew anything. And I was sitting there like, I know everything. Should I say? And I was like, you know what? And the kicker was, I said, if that was my sister, I'd want somebody to say something. So I said to the cop, I said, look, here's what's going on. He beats her ass all the time. I saw it. There's a trail of blood going to his door. This is what happened, right? So literally, So then that was done. I don't know what the investigation led to or what, but all I know is that it didn't lead to their breakup because a few days later, he's checking in, he's coming in, and he's signing in, and the same girlfriend is right there with him, and I'm just kind of like, well, hey, I had to say something, man, because what you're doing, you shouldn't be hitting on women. This is crazy. I didn't say it, but I was kind of giving him that look, and then he's mumbling some BS like, well, you don't know what I've been through and blah 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 blah, just like a little punk. Those guys that beat up on women, they're punks when they get around other men. Y'all know what I'm talking about. And then check this out. So the girl, right? She signs in, and now he's kind of like timid toward me. He didn't really feel he wasn't aggressive. She signs in and she goes, he needs to learn to mind his own goddamn business. And I'm like, well, you're welcome, ma'am, you little butthole. But anyway, it was kind of like, but that's what the experience is, right? So sometimes you say something to somebody and and because they're in their situation and in their feelings, you then become the enemy because you try to do the right thing. So that's the risk of trying to save other people's relationships, is like literally, I read a book, and this is important in terms of the biggest investment you make in your life, which is typically related to love, which again, everything that I teach you about stocks and investing can apply to life. This is why I want you to understand how it connects, right? Um, so literally every book that I read pretty much says that when you fall in love, you're basically drunk. You're drunk and you're high. It's like somebody just injected some crack with Kool-Aid in it into your bloodstream, and you're just out of your freaking mind. So you're going to make a lot of irrational decisions, and that's how people get manipulated when it comes to whether it's consumer spending or when how they get manipulated politically. If you see politically, you see a lot of people right now over Trump Kamala stuff. They're literally acting a fool and cussing each other out. I literally listened to two Twitter spaces, one with Luke from Two Live Crew and another one with somebody I respect, Tesla and Figaro. And in both cases, like there was a lot of cussing and screaming and F you, a mother ucka, and blah, blah, blah. And it's just irrational, right? But love is the same way. Like love gets you just in this heightened emotional state that can cause you to really make some bad decisions. So you really want to be just mindful of that in terms of your emotional intelligence. So circling back, so I'm talking to my friend. Let's circle back to my friend who was getting engaged to this guy. And I remember just debating in my head, should I say something? It ain't gonna work. They gonna get mad at you. And so I said, look, I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna say it one time, and I'm never gonna say it again. I think it's a bad idea. I do not think you should marry this person, because it's not gonna be a good choice. And she didn't say a word, and we hung up. So I kind of became the wet blanket on the parade, because when people get married, there's a lot of excitement, a lot of happiness, but then there's the reality of actually being married to someone, right? There's the heightened state of the big wedding day and the big announcement and all the screaming and excitement, but then there's the reality of like what's it like day in day out for literally, if you think about it, there's 365 days in a year. 8,760 hours in a year, actually. And so over the course of a decade, that's 87,600 hours with the same person. And if you do that for, say, 40 years, you're talking about roughly about 350,000 hours that you're going to spend with this person. And a lot of times and that's a massive investment. Like that's a massive investment. If you take 350,000 hours, and you actually, it's more than that. If you're married 50 years, my parents have been married for 50 years. So it actually goes deeper than that. It's actually over 400,000 hours they spent together. So if you value that time at, say, even $10 an hour, that's $4 million. If you value that at $100 an hour, that's $40 million. So that is the biggest investment you will ever make. Like who you choose to be with is the biggest. There's very rarely any financial investment you're ever going to make that's going to match the decision of who you're going to be with. So to me, if you think about this, right, if you were going to make a $500,000 real estate deal, give me a yes or no. Would you do research and due diligence on that deal? Give me a yes or no. Would you take your time, look at, study things, look at the documentation, process things, talk to experts, right? Prepare. If you're going to make a $3 million deal, would you do that? Give me a yes or no. If you're going to start a business, it's going to take your $3 million into your life savings or something, which don't do that, please. But still, would you take the time to do extensive due diligence to make sure that you minimize risk as you make your decision, maximize information, make an informed decision? Yes, you would. But what's interesting to me is that given that we're going to, when you talk about something like marriage, where you're going to literally spend 400,000 hours with that person if you're married 50 years, which at valued at $100 an hour is a $40 million investment. Let's say $50 an hour, that's a $20 million investment. I don't think we do the same level of due diligence. I don't. And the reason I know this is because, um, if you take a guy, let's say a guy who has, $1 million in the bank and he's a nice guy and he presents well, he can, you could, if you've seen this, I've seen men manipulate women to the point where they can have a woman fall in love with them in literally 3 days, literally 2 or 3 days. And a part of it is due to certain sociological, biological triggers. First of all, you see someone, you start to fantasize about how this person is the person that you've been waiting for your whole life, and then they're very nice to you, and they like you, and you like them, and then you have a couple of good conversations, and then some people follow crazy things like the 3 date rule. Well, because you're aroused and you start to have sex, and then sex has a natural bonding mechanism, and so assuming nothing goes wrong, like they don't pull out a knife and try to kill you or something, you could be locked in with that person after literally 3 days, not due diligence, just 3 days of getting to know them. And I think that's how we can end up in just some really crazy situations because people can pretend for 3 days. People can be a whole nother person I've seen people be a whole nother person for a year. I knew a guy who hacked women. He was like the Tinder swindler. Like if y'all saw the Tinder swindler, you'll know. Did y'all see the Tinder swindler? How many of y'all watched that? It was really good. It was on Netflix. The Tinder swindler was a white dude who would basically he would pour into women's fantasies. He showed up as this very sharp, well-dressed, smell good, handsome man who would say all the right things, and then he'd take him on a trip on his private jet, like they'd fly to Switzerland and go have dinner or something. So women would instantly fall in love with this guy, and then he had a whole routine where suddenly something goes wrong and he needs you to send him $5,000 immediately, or bad things are gonna happen, and because you love him, you send him the money, and next thing you know, he's doing this. And the way he would do it was really interesting. He ran it almost like an emotional or a romantic Ponzi scheme. It was built like a Ponzi scheme because the definition of a Ponzi scheme is where you pay the new investors by using money from the old investors, or better yet, you pay the old investors by getting money from the new investors, and you pay the new with the old. So you're kind of robbing Peter to pay Paul. You're not really bringing anything authentic to the table. You're just literally taking money from one investor and giving it to another one. So what he would do is the women he had further down the pipeline that were already wired in and giving him money, he used that money to recruit new women. That's how he could afford to take them on a private jet to Switzerland for dinner because he'd have $50,000 or $80,000 that he got from another woman. And a lot of you who watch this, or maybe you saw Risa Tisa, who the F did I marry? Y'all, did y'all see that Risa Tisa? She's become like a celebrity now. It's kind of crazy. This lady who married this interesting man and told her story in a series. Now she's got 3.5 million followers and she's got all glammed up. She used to do her videos with her hair rollers and stuff and a bonnet on her head, but now she's like she looks, she look like Oprah or something now. I'm happy for her. But a lot of us know real life stories like that. Like, let me know, give me a yes or no. Like, do you know stories of people that were just incredibly good at manipulating other people and were able to exploit people's vulnerabilities? And in my mind, I don't see it much different from things like consumer spending. Corporations when department stores and corporations wanted to sell more consumer products, one of the executives said, "Oh, I've got this cousin or this uncle in Germany who does psychology research and he needs money. His name is Sigmund Freud, and he can help us to hack into human psychology." And so they paid Freud for his research, and they said, "We need you to tell us how human beings are wired so we can get them to buy stuff." Right. And so that sort of emotional manipulation is a common thing. And I would say that part of consciousness is the cousin of emotional intelligence. The consciousness is the cousin of emotional intelligence. That's where you're really in touch with your feelings and you know how you feel. And you sit and instead of acting on those feelings, you say, "Gosh, I'm feeling this way. What's going on right now? Like what how do I manage and monitor this?" And part of the reason that therapy is so important, this is why y'all black folks we all got to get therapy. I got my therapist. I hope you got one too. Um, is because therapy has tools that give you emotional intelligence, that give you the ability to, you get triggered, you get mad, you want to pull out the butcher knife, you want to cuss somebody out. Therapy teaches you to kind of back up and say, okay, I really want to stab you right now. But that's not a good idea. Let me take some deep breaths and back up and process how I'm feeling so I can make sure that I don't do something or say something that I'm going to regret. And that preserves relationships. That'll keep you out of jail. It'll also keep the money in your pocket. You get into these situations where you're feeling a certain way and you want to make a move based on emotion. Well, that's what they love. That's what the corporations want. That's what the politicians want. That's what the tender swindlers want. They want you operating on emotion, raw emotion, when the reality is that you want to be able to kind of step back because your emotions can kind of wire you into some really tough spots. So I think circling back to my friend and the wedding thing and why you should be careful also about just taking advice from people and letting people pressure you into making these major decisions based on their criteria is my friend, she did marry the guy. It didn't work out, but that's unfortunately I have the curse of being able to predict who's going to stay married and who doesn't. I have people to get married and I'll be thinking, nah, I don't give it more than 2 years, and a year and a half later, the person that you love to death, is like suddenly the public enemy number one, right? And I think that the ability to kind of manage these decisions uh can help you in so many areas of your life. It can help you not just in terms of romantic decisions, which again, I just explained how that's a literally 20, 30, $40 million investment to marry another person. You pick the right person, the right partner, it can just take you to the moon. Pick the wrong person, it can take you straight to hell, handbasket to hell. And so just sort of being lured in by bright shiny objects or bright shiny Negroes is something that I don't think is beneficial for you in your long-term development when it comes to wealth or anything else. I think that that emotional intelligence piece can not just help you romantically, it can also help you financially. You'll get in a situation, they'll try to like for example, if you ever go, anybody ever get invited on these little stupid little $99 vacations that they offer for the timeshare industry where they'll be like, you can go to Disneyland for $8, and you get there and you have to sit through this stupid timeshare presentation. Well, these people are just masters at manipulation. They really know how to sell, 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 and they're really good at what they do. And the way I honestly handle it is I won't even let them sit me down. It's like I'm not even gonna give you access to my emotions. Like I'm not even gonna like no, I don't want your $99 vacation. I'm not gonna sit down in this thing. I just want you to listen and hear that. No, 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 I don't, because I know this is not something that's good for me. And the same energy, the same mindset that leads me to say no, thank you to even hearing your pitch is similar to the same energy that I might use, for example, when it might come to um, even engaging with an attractive woman that I know is not good for me. Like Bill Biv DeVoe. Shout out to Bill Biv DeVoe. One of the members was in our class. I don't know if he's in here now, so I hope I don't embarrass him. But they had that song, "That Girl Is Poison," right? So you know when something is poison for you. You know when something's gonna be bad for you. Like you don't, and what's interesting to me is that some people think that you have to try things to know that they're not good for you. And I'm like, no, you don't have to go into the crack house to know that you don't need to go in there. I don't stay out of the crack house because because I'm just because I don't stay out of the crack house like sort of out of ignorance. I stay out of the crack house because I know how it ends, right? I already know for a fact that if I go into the crack house, I'm going to really enjoy myself. And I also know that if I go in there and I say, "Oh, I just want to try it just so I can know what I'm talking about." If I tell people to say no to drugs, I got to try drugs to be able to say no to drugs. Well, some drugs are going to literally change the DNA of who you are to the point where you'll start justifying decisions that you wouldn't normally make. You understand? Like it'll literally shift you. Like if I just was like, "Hey y'all, you know what? I can't talk about something without experiencing it. So I'm going to go smoke crack and tell y'all about it and then I'm going to explain why crack is bad." Well, you know what would happen? Eventually, I'd be coming in here and I'd be like, "Well, I used to think crack was bad, but you can smoke it and still be okay. I can smoke it and still come to class." And next thing my teeth start falling out. I start acting weird. I start looking funny in the eyes and getting skinny. And then next thing you know, Dr. Boyce ain't even showing up because Dr. Boyce is in the crack house. You understand? So what I'm saying is the same thing I think is true in a lot of different areas, in a lot of different choices, investments, financial decisions that you make. If you know that it ends badly, you may want to just say, I don't even want you to have access to my emotions. Like one example is the emergence of this is huge financially, the emergence of sports betting Anybody else notice this? How they're marketing like crazy, all these sports betting apps. It is terrible. I hate it. I saw, and they're marketing it heavily to young black men, heavily to black men. You don't believe me? Why do you see Kevin Hart in an ad with LeBron James? Why do you see Jamie Foxx, JB Smooth? Like name it, they're advertising this stuff, and people are just like, oh, I can do it. It's not a big deal, and maybe you can. I'm not saying that you can't, but there's a lot of gambling addictions being formed as a result of these sports betting apps. There's a massive spike, big rise. And the thing about that addiction in particular is that is one of the most financially destructive addictions out there. That will probably have as big of an impact on your finances as if you did decide to literally smoke crack. Crack might be cheaper. So if you're gonna do something, if you're gonna pick a bad habit, it's gambling, crack, gambling, crack. I don't know which one. I kind of think that this is something that is a public health crisis in the making, but nobody says it yet. Nobody sees it yet because we haven't had enough major scandals for it to become something that's part of the national conversation. And this is where capitalism gets bad because they made the decision purely out of money. When they used to make decisions because they were trying to be ethical, they used to have a strict ban on sports betting, especially amongst athletes. Like all the professional sports were unanimous in saying, no, 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 we do not support this at all. And then I guess they realize, oh, we could probably make a lot of money if we have a product that people are addicted to. And now you got so many families being devastated because of it. So I would encourage you to just kind of think about this, right? So when you talk about investing in all the areas of your life, two things come to mind. Number one, emotional intelligence can be so critical and paramount to your success in any decision that you make. That's the first thing. Second piece is um is that oh, there I forgot the second one. It'll come back to me in a minute. So I hope that this is helpful. I hope that this helps you kind of understand. So let's make emotional intelligence kind of the key factor here. Oh, that's it. Do your due diligence. Do your own due diligence. Don't make major decisions, investing decisions because somebody told you to do it. Not even me. Not even me. I'm super flattered when people say, I started my business because of you. I quit my job because of you. I appreciate that. But I want you to quit your job because of you. I want you to start your business because of you. But then you could say, you were a great help in my process. You were an advisor, and I turned to you, and you gave me some valuable information that helped me to achieve goals. And I'll be like, great, good for you. That's what I do say that. I'm like, good for you, because that is your life. That is your billion-dollar asset. That's not mine. That's not so just be really thoughtful about that because I see a lot of people make decisions that, like whether it's relationships or investing or whatever, and they'll just do it. Somebody will just say, "Oh, well, go do that." And what's interesting when I think about the fact that your life is your life and you're gonna have to deal with all those consequences is I mean, think about it like this. Imagine if you have a person who is I'm really telling myself because this actually happened to me. There was somebody that I thought about dating a long time ago when I was young, and I didn't know. I was like, no, I don't know if I should date her because blah blah. I had some reservations. And then somebody I respected was like, "Oh, you need to really be with her because," and she gave me a bunch of reasons, and because I had her blessing, because I kind of had her say that it's good and it's okay, I did it. And then we were together about maybe 3, 4 years, and it didn't work out. And I went to the same person, and she was like, literally, I kid you not, she said, "Well, I told you not to date her anyway. I would have told you never to even start that relationship." And I was like, "What are you talking about? It was a conversation with you that led me to make that decision." I was angry. I was like hot. Like, wait, what do you mean you didn't tell me to do that? And but here's the thing. I was hot. I was pissed. I was angry. But who am I really supposed to be mad at? Who should have been the target of my anger? It wasn't her. It wasn't her fault that I was naive enough to let somebody else tell me how to make my billion-dollar investment called my life. It was me. I had to look in the mirror and I learned from that. I said, man, I did 4 years of hard time in this relationship because because of one conversation. Oh my God. Because if we'd had a different conversation, I would have had a different 4 years. That's crazy. That's a lot of power. Like think about how much power like a judge has, where a judge can decide that that a person's going to get 5 years in prison or 10 years. They can just make a decision and give them an extra 5 or 10 years. I don't think anybody should be allowed to be the judge in your life. I don't think anybody should have power in your life like that. Nobody, not your parents, not your spouse, not your siblings, nobody. I think at the end of the day, it has to come back to ground zero accountability of how you're going to make that investment so that if it blows up in your face, at least you can say, well, I made a bad choice. But it really sucks when you're like, my life blew up because he made a bad choice and gave me some bad advice. That's just not going to fly because you got one chance at this thing, right? We're all going to be dead soon. I hate saying it like that, but it's true. Our life is a flash in the pans, very, very quick. And one thing I decided deep down is I said, ain't nobody going to guide this ship but me at the end of the day. Even my wife, love my wife, but I'm like, nah, baby, if I'm not feeling it, I'm not doing it. Period. Okay. So when you make your investments, financial or otherwise, whether it's money or all those things in your life that are more important than money, make sure that you're always the CEO. You are always, as George Bush used to say, you're the decider in that process. And if you don't feel comfortable being the decider yet, maybe that means you need to get more information so that the vision can become clear for you and you can have all maximal due diligence to minimize your regrets, right? To make sure you maximize your possibilities. All right. So anyway, that we've been talking for 40 minutes and I promise myself I'm not going to keep you all day. And so by the way, anybody who's watching, if you're not already in here, if you're not on the text list, just text the word morning, morning, to 87948. Text morning to the number 87948. I'll send you an invitation. Also, I want to mention that we actually put together a legacy building training program, if you're interested in that, and that's estate planning 101. I believe everybody should have a legacy. I believe everyone should prepare for the afterlife. I believe everyone should preserve assets. I don't know if you guys know this, but 90% of all wealthy families, sorry, 70% of all wealthy families lose all their wealth in one generation. 90% of all wealthy families lose their wealth in two generations. So the reason legacy planning is important is because if you don't prepare to preserve the legacy, it's going to diminish. All the hard work you put in won't matter. The kids, grandkids, everybody, they're just going to start over from nothing. And you don't want that. So the estate planning training program is something that's self-contained. There's a series of modules. There's three modules, and each one has a little mini quiz you can take to make sure that you understand the basic concepts of estate planning. And that's going to be part of the Dr. Boyce Academy. That's something that we had as a spinoff in the Black Business School. And so I'll make that available to you guys this week. The lifetime access fee is $299, but I'm going to cut the price significantly for those of you that are in Money in the Morning. And so I'll let you guys know when that's ready. And so if you're interested, that'll be something that'll be available to you. I will text out the link. Make sure you're on the text list. Text the word morning to the number 87948, and I'll send it to you. And second of all, I mentioned to you all the All Black National Convention, October 25th through the 27th in Chicago. Now, one thing I did talk to my team members about is I said, yeah, I want to make the Money in the Morning students, I really want to incentivize them to attend. So let's really make them a great offer that they can't refuse so that we can get as many of the right people in the room as possible. We're not trying to do something big and blow out. We're not trying to we will never be doing something like, say, an Invest Fest. I loved it. It was great, but it was kind of big, and that's my nerves can't take something that big. So we're aiming maybe for about the right 600 or 700 people. So you've got a big crowd, but you've got enough connection, enough of intimacy for you to connect. It has a family reunion feel, and I want to maintain that. So basically, here's the point. Almost all the tickets are gone, actually. We are going to sell out. So I think that this week they're going to make 50 tickets available for general admission, 50 for VIP, and I think they only have like 10 for the President's Circle. So that's what's going to be available, but we're still going to stick to that commitment of chopping the price. I think about 48% or something like that. So I'll make it available to you guys in this space. And if you don't want to do it, that's okay too, of course. But if you do want to come, this will be a chance. We'll do this later on toward the end of the week. I said I want to do Friday and Saturday, so that's what's going to happen. The prices, I don't have all the prices in my head, but she texted them to me. I can't remember, but yeah, so that's that. The third thing that's happening this week in the Black Business School is Dr. Lene Javette, who's our Dean of Entrepreneurship, who's a dynamic woman. You all saw her last week, and she just came in here, and I mean, she was talking about everything from business to titties. She literally said the word titties, and I was like, wait, why are we talking about titties today? Like that, so that's kind of strange. But she's great. She's very dynamic, very smart, really interesting, and she's doing and she her doctoral work was on Black women entrepreneurs in particular, and what factors make them successful and stuff like that. So we're glad to have a scientist in the think tank in the Black Business School, and so she's going to do something Friday, I believe. I'll text you guys the link. It's called From Concept to Cash Flow. How you can basically take your idea and turn that into something that generates extra money for you, whether it's a side hustle or a business, things like that. So I will text you all the link to that as well. That'll be Friday night, and it's totally free, so you guys can join and hang out with Dr. Javette. And yeah, I can't promise that she won't bring up titties again, but free speech, all that stuff. All right. So anyway, guys, Natasha says she signed up. Okay, great. Well, I can't wait to see you, Natasha. I'm gonna pop in only long enough to introduce Dr. Javette, and then I'm gonna bounce out. And I learned a long time ago when smart Black women are speaking, my job is to listen, not to keep talking. So that's gonna be my role Friday night. All right. So I'm gonna get out of here, guys. I hope you have a great day. God bless you, and I'll see you guys in the morning every single day, 7 days a week. We do Monday in the morning. So make sure you get on the text list. I'll send you a notification so you can come into the private Zoom. Just text the word morning to the number 87948. That's morning to the number 87948. I'll see you guys.